I'm very like passionate. I really enjoy what I do. I'm so invested in all of it. It is, I wake up in the morning and I'm doing stuff.
Hello and welcome to the Keyboard Chronicles, a podcast for keyboard players. I'm your host, David Holloway, and I'm thrilled as always to be here with you. Once again, joining me for part two of the Jordan Rudess interview is Mr. Paul Bindig. How are you, sir?
I'm going really well. Great to be here and excited for part two of this interview.
And I don't think the park's changed since we recorded part one. That's amazing. You're dedicated. You've been keeping well overnight and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, look, what I did, I slept here overnight in my swag and I got up and I made sure I was here at the exact same time, 24 hours later, so the angle of the sun wouldn't change since the last introduction.
That's the dedication we bring to you out there. I hope you appreciate it. So, yeah, look, this is obviously part two of Jordan's interview. If you didn't get a swathe of amazing insights from part one, then I don't know what's wrong with you, but there's as much to come in part two. So, yeah, look, very much looking forward to bringing it to you. I'll shut up and we'll talk to you at the end of the show.
Sure.
I'm glad you mentioned your guitar playing because I want to ask you about another, well, I think somewhat famous thing. We ask all of our guests on this show to share with us a train wreck, something that may have gone wrong for them in a live situation and how they handled it. And we're aware of one, again, I think reasonably famous story where you were using a Roland Fantom with a liquid tension experiment. And I believe it wasn't working for you on the day.
Hmm.
And you ended up picking up a guitar, I think, and jamming with the band for the rest of the set. Are you able to give us some background on that? And have I got that story right?
You got it pretty well. So I was really inspired, interested to try this new at the time Roland Fantom, and Roland was really cool. And they loaned me one for this tour I was doing, and I love the technology, obviously, and I really wanted to play this keyboard, even though it was kind of like still being developed. But I thought it was far enough along that okay, let's just use it. So got it all programmed up, and I was enjoying it, using it. Got to the show, one of the shows that we were doing in Chicago, and I started to, I was playing the concert, everything was going well, and all of a sudden I hear this really out of tune stuff going on, and I'm thinking, what's going on? John Petrucci's not looking where his hand is, and he's playing up a fret. And then I'm thinking that is so bizarre. And I thought, what's going on? I lifted up my hand for a minute, and what I heard was in the right key. I put my hand down again, and I'm hearing it again. But I'm looking at my hand. I'm playing the right notes. Like, who the hell is playing in half steps? I lifted up my hands. Okay, now it's fine. I realized that the keyboard, every time I hit a note, it was playing two notes. Like it would play, I'd hit a C and it was playing C and C sharp together. It was the most crazy, upsetting thing you've ever heard in your life.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, "Oh my god, okay, guys, keep jamming. Do your thing over there." And I went in the back alley it was like a small theater or something like that. And I went in the back. I literally called up Japan. I was on the phone with Japan for like 20 minutes trying to ask them what to do, like describing what was going on with this keyboard. And we tried basically everything. I reloaded, I turned it on and off, I did all this stuff, and finally there was nothing. There was nothing going on. So I just said, well, let me go back in there, get onto the field again. And all I could do is I walked up to John Petrucci, who at the time he had his head down, literally, he's playing the guitar, he's doing something wild, and I was like, I tapped him. I went, hey, hey, give me your guitar. And at the time, I hardly even played the guitar. I mean, it's just really over the last 4 years or so that I've been more like practicing, but I could noodle on it. So give me your guitar. So he's like I had to get him out of his trance. He's like, okay. So I took his guitar and he went over and he started to play the bass. Well, I think Tony Levin was playing the Chapman stick. So everybody had an instrument. And I'm jamming and playing around and just having, I guess, fairly good time doing what I'm doing. And that's what that story was all about. So, I mean, it's a little embarrassing when I think about it now because I'm sure my guitar playing wasn't very good. But
Well, it would have been a rare treat, I think, for the audience who were there. Jordan, do you have any other potential train wreck stories or unusual things that happened to you where you had to think quite quickly to get out of a situation, whether it was a technical issue or something unexpected happened while you've been performing?
Yeah, of course. Over the course of my career, there's been a number of things. Well, one infamous story is, you know how my keyboard stand not only goes kind of around like a 360 kind of thing, it also tilts and stuff like that. Well, there was a show in Mexico City, a big show at the National Auditorium for like, I think it's like 10,000, 11,000 people there. And before the show actually happened, we were in the dressing rooms, there was a small earthquake, and I remember and I was thinking, because Mexico, for some reason, earthquakes were on my mind that day, and when it happened, I was like, "Oh shit, this is like this! Oh my god, it's happening!" And I was rattled, right? And then I walked next door where Mike Mangini was practicing, and he's sitting there on his drum pad going like this. I'm like, "Mike, did you feel that?" He's like, what?" Like, because he was going like this, so he didn't feel anything. But there was an earthquake. It wasn't big enough that they canceled the show, but it was enough to rattle my nerves and some people's nerves. Went on stage, and I remember screwing up the first song because I was just so distracted. But I just like forgot to repeat something and was lost for a minute. And oh, this, earthquakes in Mexico City and blah, blah, all this stuff. About 20 minutes into the show, I went to play a lead, right? And for the lead, I like to kind of entertain, and I put you guys are the audience, and I put the keyboard like this, and I'm jamming out, doing my thing, and then I went to hit the button that sends the thing back. No luck. I hit it again. Nothing. I couldn't. The thing was fully tilted all the way down. I called my tech to come out. Comes out with a big wrench. He's trying to do stuff, but he couldn't get the thing to go back. John Petrucci and James Labrie came over. John's got all the muscles. They're trying to look while he's kind of playing. He's also trying to lift the keyboard back. Ended up that I played the entire show tilted over like this on this keyboard on an absolute slant, and it was funny. It wasn't funny at the time. It was a real challenge because I knew I could play the lead that I planned to tilt it and do that, but I didn't know about maybe like the piano parts or like a lot of the other stuff. I didn't know if I could play it in that position. So every time a part came up, I was going, "Oh my God, can I play this in that position? Can I do this?" And I got through the show and I thought I played it pretty well. But when I got off the stage, my back was
Yeah,
literally, I was almost like stuck feeling in this leaning. And the tech was like, trying to like put me back like together again, straight. That was, yeah, pretty memorable mess up.
absolutely. That's
Technically. Yeah.
no great example. Thanks, Jordan. I thought
Yeah.
we might get philosophical for a couple of questions, Jordan, before I go on to our handful of listener questions and
Sure.
we try and give you your life back. Assuming you live to roughly be 120, what does the next 20, 30, 40 years of your career look like? What are you still wanting to achieve, and what floats your boat, and what would you love to do over the coming decades?
Well, um, I think as I get older, I become even more creative, and just something about my life is just kind of like I just see myself leaning into and being more interested in just a creative expression. And it doesn't necessarily have to be music. A lot of my creativity these days is also visual experiments and visual fun and working with all that kind of tech as well and putting them all together. And that's just my happy place, and I'm just creating something. I love to sit at the piano, get home from whatever, even if it's a rehearsal or a busy day, and I'll put my phone down, on the camera and just do a live stream. I just want to play, and I might as well share it with everybody and just share a vibe, a little personal tuning and maybe tune some other people up while I'm at it. So, I mean, I think that's that kind of spirit is the main thing that I love to do. And I think I'll do that for as long as I can. Anything like that, at some point, who knows? I mean, right to this day, knock on wood somewhere, my hands have been great. And, I think because of pretty much because of how I learned to play and everything. And be relaxed and just kind of like take care of myself. But I think I'll always find some way to be creative. I think also that I will always be interested in the latest tools. Like I can see myself, still being very forward motion about, wanting to experience, to enjoy, to use all the coolest tech, like whatever's coming, my way, whether it's waving my hands in the air on things like airwaves, or, putting on some kind of a thing on my brain and just like thinking about the music and sending those messages out to some kind of receptor, or like all of that stuff. I love all that stuff. I think it's great. I mean, obviously, Dream Theater is running very strong still. I don't know how many years this will continue, but I'm kind of like in it for the ride, because I've invested a lot of time in it. And and we have very powerful operation going on here. I don't see that it needs to stop anytime soon. But that's kind of like the way I see my
Yeah.
life.
No, amazing answer. And going to the other side of the spectrum, for someone entering the industry today, and it's obviously a much different industry to when you entered it, what advice would you give to any aspiring musician wanting to make a career in music?
I think that musicians need to be very flexible. You get into this because you love music, you love sound, something or things about it. But I think the one thing that might be really helpful for people to understand getting into it is that you don't know where it's going to end up. You don't know what's going to click, and from every aspect of it. Like first of all, it's possible to enjoy a lot of different creative aspects of it. You don't have to get locked into one thing, especially because from a real world kind of even economic point of view, you don't know what's going to work out, and you got to support yourself. And if you want to be doing music, best to be flexible. And even like an established musician, it's really great to be able to do more than just the one thing. Because for so many reasons, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, especially like a music career. I mean, yes, people who love playing music, you should work out a way to play music. Absolutely. I did that my whole life, and that's great. But I think one of the things that I've done very successfully to have the kind of life that I have is that I've been very open, very interested. I've been very flexible. I play with Dream Theater. I do my solo albums. I'm a visiting artist at MIT. I develop apps. And people look at me and go, "How the hell do you do all that?" And I'm like, the only reason I do that is because I'm very like passionate. I really enjoy what I do. I'm so invested in all of it. It is. I wake up in the morning and I'm doing stuff. I just, this is what I do. This is what I love. And, I've got to give my wife credit for a lot of things too. And I'm not just saying that, but it's really true. I mean, my wife, Danielle, is a producer, and she manages to kind of keep our lives on track and handle a lot of the like real world things that need to be handled, because I'm pretty much like a creative space cadet, so I tell young musicians, the best thing that you can do is marry a producer.
Yes. I love it.
There you go.
Practical, very
Yeah.
practical.
Right. Right.
The last philosophical question, and it may not have an answer given your outlook on life, but do you have a biggest musical regret?
That's an interesting question. Biggest musical regret. No, I'm not some. Yeah, you're right. I'm not somebody who thinks like that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yeah, I feel like there's something to be learned from everything that happens. And sometimes you get a little twinge. Well, it would have been nice to be able to practice classical music more. Like maybe I shouldn't have left, but Juilliard or whatever. But you know what? Again, I don't think like that. And I think, well, wow, I went through years of not having any money and playing in a bar, a hotel, and that's what led me to here. And it's all good. And I don't know, we never know what single moment in life is going to lead you to the next place. So I just don't think like that.
No. Great.
Yeah.
No. Fair. Well put. And
Mm.
we'll move on to our listener and viewer questions, Jordan. I've got sort of 5 or 6 of them, and there's 2 that come from Jim in the US as well. He was talking about a week after Keyfest 2018, where I think he had the pleasure of meeting you. I was in my kitchen making dinner for my wife and myself, and I'm cutting up some bell peppers, and it dawned on me, I wonder if Jordan ever uses a knife in the kitchen.
That's a good question. I am very like hesitant with things like that. I went to visit my friend today, Jack Hotop, who is well known for his days with
Absolutely.
Korg. A bunch of us went over there to visit him, and he has an attack cat that he loves very much. The cat is a little bonkers, and the cat literally, I discovered pretty quickly, was not happy that there were guests in the house. So I literally kept my hands very high up in the air the whole time, because anytime I saw the cat, I was like, okay, my hands are not going near there. So I'm kind of like a cautious person in a way as well, but I guess because of all the years spent with a focus on my hands like that, I definitely have a sixth sense for like where to put my
Yeah.
hands when. So when it comes to cutting something, like I'll help. My wife, and she's the cook, but I'll say, "Oh, can I help? Oh, can you cut that?" I'll be like, "Yeah," but I do it slowly, and I'm thinking, and just kind of like looking down, and there's no technique of that at all. It's just me like saying, "Okay, well, I better be very careful here." It's like
Love it.
so.
Yeah, so no chainmail gloves in the kitchen. That's good. And Jim's other question was, he was curious with some of the incredibly complex musical pieces you do both in solo and Dream Theater, and he's mentioned Dance of the Eternity as one example. Is that something you tend to come up with as far as some jamming and work into a full piece, or you tend to go into the studio with that somewhat formed?
Well, the way that Dream Theater works together is we like to kind of put things together when we are in the room together. But I like for some of the really progressive things that we like, if I think about the newest album, that's what's freshest on my mind. There's sections where it goes into full on like proggy. A lot of it's heavy, it's slamming with the guitar, whatever. But then there's sections that all of a sudden the keyboards are going off and it sounds like Gentle Giant, or it sounds like this or that. And it kind of, I guess in some ways, maybe it's certain parts, maybe a little bit obvious that it's coming from my brain. And some of those things I'll write like in the morning before they get there, and I'll run it by them. And if they look at me like cross-eyed, I'll be like, okay, well, obviously that one didn't fly because that one's too bizarre for you, too much Gentle Giant influence or whatever. But sometimes, like Mike Portnoy will say, I like that. That's really cool. We got to do that. So even though it's weird, a lot of these things are, a lot of those very proggy things, even though they become a part of Dream Theater, are also a little bit like different than what their upbringing is. And I think that's also in the bigger picture why they have me around, because I can kind of like I'm not the one who's like the keeper of the brand. I'm like pushing it here and there and offering things that I literally will get a look like from a Petrucci, or certainly in my young, they're like, what the fuck is that? Like, what are you doing? Right? What style is that? I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's just it's one of the things that I do.
Yep.
So like save that for your own music. But yeah, I'll come up with stuff, and I'll write, I'll like jot it down. I'll write it down and like present it. There's definitely those bits, like, and then there's stuff that happens like right in the room, like, right there as well. And
Yeah.
John Petrucci, is an incredible composer. He'll come in with some, ideas and stuff that he shows, 8 measures, 16 measures, whatever. And then a lot of times like those things, I guess, especially coming from like a guitar, there he might be playing a line, and I'll go, oh, that's a cool line, and I could put this bass thing against it, or put these he's welcoming to what can I do with that. So that's kind of how things happen. A lot of things happen when we're together, just vibing in the room, and a lot of things happen, I realize, for me, there'll be this workflow, there's a lot going on, and I'm just kind of hanging out. My brain is always thinking like the riff, I always got some riff in my head, and one note triggers all ideas. So I have to be kind of very patient. And then when maybe they'll take a breath, I'll go, okay, well, how about this? And I'll just rattle off whatever's at the moment, really quick. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, then we do that. It's a very interesting. The whole thing is very interesting, the process.
That's a great insight into the compositional and recording process. Thanks, Jordan.
Cool.
From Tammy in Canada, who I'll give a special mention to because she's one of our program sponsors and our Patreon. So thank you, Tammy. She would like to know if you had a time machine and you could pick any musical moment in history to go to. So maybe recording with a seminal band, or perhaps one more lesson with one of your favourite teachers, some of whom you mentioned. What would be something, if you could go anywhere at any time and do it musically, what would that be?
Everybody always asks me, like, who would, alive or dead, who would you want to, like, play music? Is there anybody that you'd want to play music with? And one of the thoughts that always comes into my head is that I think, like, Jimi Hendrix is one of the coolest musicians ever. Like, I mean, certainly the art of playing the guitar has come a long way since his day, and there are people who can play, shred, like, in ways that he could never touch. But he just reeked of coolness. And I like to kind of like try to embody some of that, like when I'm doing leads and doing certain things. And it would be great to go back in time and to enter, like, do some jamming with Jimmy, like that would be really cool.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I think we'd all give our right arm to be able to spend some time with Jimmy. What an amazing musician he
Right,
was.
right. Yeah.
Last viewer listener question we have is from our friend Walter in Guatemala, and he's got two very simple questions for you.
Okay.
One is, would you ever go fully software based? And the second question is, has your Kronos 3 arrived yet?
I like those questions. When I'm working in the studio, like on my own stuff, like Permission to Fly, it is mostly software based, what I'm doing, like all the tracks I'm doing. I just feel like I have this immense palette of sounds with all the different software. And of course, as we know, the software is just, it's incredible, like what's out there. It's mind blowing. And sadly, a lot of the keyboards that I have sitting around my room don't really get used anymore. They're just things that I can't really would have trouble letting go of. But when I'm working on my music, my own stuff, it is really a lot of software. Um, but when it comes to like playing leads and stuff like that, I still will go to my Kronos because there's something about the whole ribbon and the joystick and the interaction and everything I haven't been able to really get out of software, to this point. Um, and the second question was, I'm sorry, was what?
Kronos 3, yeah, with your
Oh,
Kronos
yeah,
3's
yeah.
arrived.
Yes. I just literally got one a few days ago, and I've been programming it and getting it kind of ready for this next chapter.
Great.
And I love the fact that it starts up very fast.
Yes.
They really improved that. That's really good stuff.
No, excellent. We're on to our
Yeah.
last two questions, Jordan, and it's the infamous Desert Island Discs question. So if you had to take 5 albums to an island, what would they be?
Okay. Electric Ladyland was number one. Close to the Edge by Yes. Freehand, Genesis. Trick of the Tail. What did I say? Freehand, Gentle Giant. I think I said the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trick of the Tail, Genesis, and maybe Tarkus,
Nice.
Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Yeah, great 5 picks. And our last question, Jordan, is what we call the Quickfire 10. So it's 10 short and sharp answers to some simple statements. So the first one is, due to some serious crime, you're sentenced to 6 months in a tribute band. What tribute are you choosing?
Oh, in a tribute band?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes. Let's do a Yes tribute. That keep me amused.
Excellent. What's your most important pre-gig ritual, Jordan?
Just having some quiet, like a half an hour of quiet time before, walking to the stage.
Yeah. I think you've already mentioned this, but to some extent, but if you hadn't been a musician, what do you think your career choice would have been?
Yeah, it would have been something creative, like doing some kind of graphic design or visuals, or yeah, definitely.
Yeah, nice. What's the favourite tour you've ever done throughout your career?
Well, I mean, that's kind of like asking me what my favorite place to go is. I was talking to the guys today. Yeah, there's so many great places in the world to go, obviously. I love going to Japan. I just think it's so great. The people are so nice and it's so different. And I like Japanese food, and it's kind of like, so those Asian tours are always pretty special to me.
Great. And you've covered our next one about the favourite city as well, so thank you. If you had to pick
Oh.
one gig that particularly stands out in your memory, I know that's hard as well, but is there a gig that, if you had to cite one, that you go, yeah, that was a pinnacle for me?
Well, it's funny because I remember like hometown gigs a lot. I guess they just have this kind of like energy behind them that are just so extreme. And then some gigs I remember because they were both exciting and maybe something weird happened. And I guess I can end this with telling you guys a weird, kind of funny story with a big gig. So the Dream Theater Live at Budokan show?
Yep.
Yeah. So that was a huge gig for us. Remember being told before we went out there that, okay, guys, you're going to walk on stage. There's going to be like 20 moving cameras all over you. And there's, everybody's here, blah, blah, blah. Big, big excitement. Totally remember being back there and just like, wow, this is going to be intense. I walk on stage and I look down. I was playing Kurzweil keyboards at the time. The first song we're playing, we open the set with As I Am. And I literally walk to the stage. I look down at my keyboard. As I Am is not loaded into that keyboard. I'm like, what? And so my first reaction was, oh shit, I have to load the whole set. The wrong set is loaded into this keyboard. So obviously I've got to get the right set loaded into this keyboard, but the cameras are on. They're all looking. Well, thank God that As I Am is a very heavy song, and if the keyboards are missing, well, okay, it's probably the best choice of songs to not have the keyboards be heard. So, but the problem, of course, is, and I didn't really think about it from this angle. The problem is that if I'm not playing, then that's like a disaster. If I'm looking like there's some kind of a problem, I can't change that. So my instincts were good. I kept no. I kept like playing it. Meanwhile, loading. I'm loading the sound. And the Kurzweil took about 4 minutes to like load in a set or something like that. The song is what, like 5.5 or six, I don't know, 6 minutes. So I'm like, and the next song, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think the next song I started. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna load this. I'm gonna pray like this thing has gotta load before the next song starts. So I ended up doing it like, I was really playing, loading in the song, and then the next song comes around and it had loaded, and I was like, okay. And
Wow.
then the rest of the night was a whole lot easier, but whew, that was tough.
That's amazing.
Really tough. Yeah. These things that make great stories years later, right?
Well,
But when
they
they're
always do, don't
happening,
they?
it's like, yeah,
Yeah, it's
right,
so true. They're a nightmare when they happen, but they're wonderful stories afterwards.
right, exactly.
Jordan, is there a song that you used to love, but now you've played it to death?
That's a good question. Like I'm not somebody who I don't have that issue. A lot of people are like, a lot of musicians are like, I don't want to play that song ever again. I can't take it. If I play it one more time, it's going to make me crazy. I don't have. There must be something in my genes or something that I don't. I really don't have that. I don't mind playing a song like each night. I kind of, because to me a song is like, it's like an emotion. It's like an energy. It's a feeling. So let's say we're playing, Spirit Carries On every night. Like that's fine with me. Or play, even like we play Pull Me Under, which is not a song I wrote, but it's fun and I enjoy the emotion of that song. And I never kind of feel like, oh, I've got to play that song again. So
Great.
maybe it's because the material that I am playing every night is stuff that's really pretty good. If I was playing crap, well then, yeah, I think that I would be able to say, oh well, this song, is a horrible song. But with Dream Theater, everything has some level of interest. So that I think helps me to not get like bored with playing songs.
Absolutely. Favorite music documentary or movie, Jordan?
I just saw a great one the other day, the new
I've
Led
heard it's
Zeppelin
great.
documentary.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. And I learned a lot about Led Zeppelin that I just did not know. So I can recommend that. It was enjoyable. They were
I'm
so
super keen to
talented.
watch that. Yeah,
Right.
so I'm even keener to watch it now that I've heard you recommend it. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Can you name one thing you would like to see invented that would make your life as a keyboard player easier?
You know, good question, because I feel like the keyword world, even though something like my Kronos is fantastic for the kind of gigs that I like, that Kronos for the Dream Theater gig is perfect. I mean, it's just great. Um, However, I will say that I think that the keyboard world is unfortunately kind of like we suffer from um, just being a small kind of industry, the kind of interest. There's not that many people who are, like, from my point of view, that are real keyboard players. It's a lot of people out there who maybe play chords and stuff. They're using a keyboard to play a little, do some scoring thing, or they're playing a little part in a band. But as far as being a keyboard player, really needing cool controllers and doing splits and layers and something that's like a powerhouse instrument with real sound control and lots of them. Like, I really want that, and some people I know really, really want that. But there's not, I don't think there's like enough people out there who are really
Yeah.
going to buy that and who really want it to push this industry to a point where it starts to become something more like, let's say, the lighting industry, where I walk up to my lighting guy's board and it's like, wow, that's a beautiful board. It looks incredible. Or even a sound man's like incredible board. The keyboard's like, where are my motorized faders, on my keyboard? Where is like an incredible touch screen? Where are all the things that would make, where's all the visual information? Like, where are my splits of my 600 sounds a night? Where are my splits and layers? I knew I put that sound somewhere over there, but why can't I? And what was the velocity zoning? Like, there's a lot of things that would be fantastic. And again, like what Korg gifted me, with the Kronos and the world with that Kronos is great. I mean, there's so many things that it can do now that are like being able to play huge combinations and switch sounds and not have the effects or the sounds and, be interrupted and just everything smooth. So we're really thankful for those. They're not such small favors. Those are big things. But again, the keyboard industry as a whole and what we're offered, I think, falls short of what a lot of other industries are able to produce. And especially now that I'm kind of like playing with technology so much, and like I see what's going on with the AI and with the language models, and I want to be able to go up to my keyboard and say, okay, I'll talk to it and say, I want a split. I want piano and strings, from C4 down to C2. I want a brass sound with choir. I want, give me a realistic choir, and, and return, go.
Exactly.
Oh, that's nice. Lower the choir sound. Try a different choir. Why not? I mean, we're all using like Chat GPT to like say, okay, make an image of, like the other day, I want a picture of me hanging out with Beethoven, creating image. Um, have me sitting down. Next image. Oh, good. That's better. Okay, great. I mean, it's there. The technology is
Mm.
there. You can use your voice to create, you know, images and sound. So it's something that is technically there for the making, but when we'll see it,
Yeah.
that's another really big question.
Yeah, it is. But great response. Thank you. And the last one in the Quickfire 10, Jordan, is your favorite non-musical activity or hobby? What keeps you sane outside of music?
Yeah, like I've been trying to be like connect with my physical body like a little bit more, and I really like to what keeps me sane is walking, really. Like, I'm somebody I don't know how other people do it if they don't get out like that blows my mind. I really don't know how people tour and don't leave the hotel. And my friends, some of them don't. But for me, I get to a place and I'm like, put my bags down, I'm going out the door. I got to get some air. I got to get some sunlight, see the light of day. And, so that I love that. It keeps me sane and it's important to me.
No, exactly. Now, Jordan, if I'm not pushing the friendship too far, I did have one question I realised I missed, and that was on the current tour. And as you said, you're going out throughout Europe during the rest of the year. What essentially is your rig that you're currently using? What's changed since last tours? And obviously, all of our listeners and viewers love knowing about rigs. Just, if you're happy to go through to the extent that you can.
Sure. So my rig, has always been a little bit different than most like progressive rock keyboard players, where other people are using multiple keyboards. I've met for many years, always chosen to find this most powerful keyboard I could and really learn how to use it and get the most out of it. That's been kind of been my style. And one of the reasons I've done that is because I thought that like years ago that it's cool, it looks cool when somebody has a lot of different keyboards. And, I like owning a lot of keyboards, certainly, but I don't really love the idea of lifting my hands off of a keyboard before the musical phrase is done, just for the show. I would rather just musically, and this is the way I feel, be focused on the 88 notes in front of me and I can play my parts. And therefore I've taken that approach to being able to, have like really kind of, let's call them intelligent program changes, and to know how to use my cool synthesizers and sample what I need and get all the sounds that I want. I like that. And then for the show business part, I've got like a really, really cool custom stand that's, it's very entertaining. And now I've got a really cool synesthesia display that wraps around my keyboard as well and responds to my MIDI information, and I can program that. And it's become, as far as entertainment, I think it's maybe equally as cool as if I had, 8 keyboards or whatever. So my Kronos and that system around it is the main like event. But I also have behind me, I brought back my lap steel after almost like 20 years. We've been playing Octavarium on the tour, which, I learned how to play the lap steel because of that song. And I learned how to play it again after forgetting how to play it for this tour. So that's pretty cool. And I also kind of like brought out the newest Continuum, the Continuum made by Lippold Haken. Is just a fantastic instrument, and I'm kind of rocking that as well. So behind me, I have the Continuum and the lap steel, and then in addition to my rig in front of me, I'm also playing GeoShred on my iPad. GeoShred is my own company's musical instrument. It's based on physical modeling for those people who don't know, and it has some just wonderful sounds and control on the glass surface that's very unique. And then I've also been rocking the Roland Axe Edge, the guitar as well. So I'm thinking that's
Yeah,
kind of
great
it. And
rig.
yeah, and actually on my iPad of note is that okay. So I'm playing GeoShred, which many people have heard me talking about because it's my app. But I also brought back using an app that was really, really cool and still cool, but some years ago called Bebop. This is great sounding application that has like a little robot on the screen, and as you play it, this looks really quirky and cool, and it has a great sound, and so that's pretty fun.
That's amazing. No, thank you for that. And look, we can't thank you enough for the time you've given us tonight, Jordan. It's been an absolute honour and a privilege, and we're excited to see what does come over the next 30, 40, 50 years when you do live to be 120. And
Be
also,
interesting.
look forward to seeing you down under, as you said, hopefully at some stage next year or whenever. So, again, cannot thank you enough.
Well, maybe with the new technology that's coming out, I could live to be 120 because
Exactly.
that there's one school of thought which they're saying that the human beings will become more like robots as we add artificial organs and implants in our brain, and the robots will become more like human beings. So there might be some weird crossover that is a little bit unexpected for some. So I'll see you guys when we'll do another interview when I'm 120. How about that?
Paul, I'm not saying anything new here. It's always hard to digest what we experience when we interview some of these amazing guests, and it's certainly no different with Jordan. Quite a bit of ground covered.
Yeah, what a fun interview that was for us, and we hope it was for Jordan too. All I will say is I'd always suspected he was a really interesting character, and I think that was borne out by some of his insights. He's got some interesting and unconventional approaches to the way he looks at his music from a theoretical but also a technical perspective. And what I love most about that interview, and again, I'm not shocked by this, but I loved how he's just such a positive, open-minded guy. Like he's just got this real, he just exudes positivity and something that listeners and viewers won't have been able to pick up because this sort of happens in before we press record and after we turn it off. But just a nice person, and really kind and generous to us, which was a really nice thing. So what a really nice, humble man, and I just really enjoyed that, David. That was just one of my absolute favourites.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, if ever in the year, say, 2035 or 2045, there's going to be a cyborg human hybrid keyboard player, it's going to be that guy. So he called it out at the end of the show, and I think he's right. So, no, huge thanks to Jordan for his time. He certainly went above and beyond, and we hugely appreciate it. We also appreciate all of you out there for listening and watching. It does mean a huge amount. And also a big shout out to our gold and silver supporters. So the lovely Tammy Catcher from Tammy's Musical Stew, thank you so much, Tammy. Dewey Evans from the sunny land of Wales, thank you, sir. The Magical Mike from Midnight Mastering, there's 4 M's, Magical Mike Midnight Mastering. Can't thank him enough as well. If you need good work done, he's the man. And last but definitely not least, Dave Bryce and the team from the musicplayer.com forums. Can't thank them enough as always. So again, thank you to you all out there. Thank you, sir. I'll let you go and play on the playground equipment, Paul, and we'll be back in a few weeks.